While Auburn's roster is vastly improved, there's still multiple position groups that have plenty of questions on both sides of the ball.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We are dapping it up with the Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend, hanging out with us today. Did Bruce Pearl tell us something earlier in the week? Let's speculate and take our guesses later in the show. We'll talk about the front seven for Auburn's defense because there are questions there. But on the offensive side of the football, there's multiple positions, you and I agree, when it comes to, okay, like you could see a path there, but there are questions. And I'll start with the running back room, Darrell. And I know there are differing opinions on who may be the lead guy. I personally think it's going to be Damari Austin. I think Jeremiah Cobb will have a role, and we'll see what happens with Darrell Robinson. The talent is there, but it is unproven. We saw Damari have a larger role a little bit when Jarquez missed a little bit of time and he was a little banged up, and fumbling concerns were there. The talent is in the room, but until we see what a full workload looks like for these guys, there are still going to be questions.
Absolutely legitimate. I think why it's less of a question mark for me is because we've seen over the course of 2 years what Austin can do. We know that Cobb has shown flashes, and albeit at a smaller school, a group of five school, Darrell Robinson has played college football and been successful.
Sure.
Now, that doesn't ease my concerns completely like it would if there was a Kerryon Johnson or a Tank Bigsby or a Jarquez Hunter coming back. I think it's going to be, and I've said this before, people are going to have to get used to a different mindset just this year of the Auburn backfield, where it's going to be, I think, more of running back by committee. I know that somebody's got to get a majority of carries, but I think the way those carries are distributed are going to be a lot closer than they've been in 4, 5, 6 years.
Let me ask you this. Eric Singleton, I think he had 21 rushes at Georgia Tech last year. Do you think Eric Singleton has more or less than 21 rushes for Auburn this season?
If he has more than 21, it tells me the belief in Jeremiah Cobb is not where it needs to be. So I really didn't answer you, because Jeremiah Cobb has been the one in the last 2 years that has run that jet sweep type thing, or what, you know better than I, that where he runs in front of the quarterback and the quarterback kind of tosses it to him. You know what I'm saying? There's a variation to run it.
I mean, has Cobb really done that? I mean, we've talked about how that'd be a good fit, but
I've seen him do it a few times. I mean, I've seen him do it more than I saw Austin do it. And so if that's his niche, then I think Singleton gets less than 21 carries. But my gut tells me that Singleton is so dynamic and runs a 4.2, you would be foolish not to utilize him in open space like that and run him on that play 25 to 30 times a year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see what it looks like. That's what, 1.5 touches a game? That's a lot.
Don't you feel like you're best off? Yeah, but that old adage that's even older than me is, what do you try to do as much as possible to as much as possible to the most dynamic offensive player on your team?
No, give him the ball.
Give him the ball. Get the ball in his hands as much as possible. And if that means, well, to a certain extent, we saw him, or we thought we saw him lined up doing some punt returns, didn't we? I mean, I think in spring. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but you do want to put the ball in the hands of your most dynamic player as much as possible. And if that means a couple runs a game, so be it. And I totally am on board with that.
Yeah.
Who's the wide receiver that used to be at Texas A&M? Is it Amici? Is that how you say his name? Or that was so fast. And he was a very, very good wide receiver for A&M, but he was lightning quick. They ran him some in that same scenario on the jet sweep. So I think that, Devin, I can't remember the full name, but I think that's who he is.
Gotcha.
I just think that he will get those carries. I think it'll be beneficial for Auburn.
Yeah, I guess my question is, like, because you had a similar situation last year.
A-Chain, that's his name. Sorry.
Oh, Devon A-Chain.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I said Amici. But anyway, it's A-Chain. Yeah. Anyway,
But he was a running back though. Like A-Chain is a running back. So
there was somebody else that I'm thinking of then that was a receiver at A&M
Gotcha.
that was so quick. Anyway,
yeah. No, I mean it happens for sure. For sure. The athletic, fast guy, you got to give him the ball 100%. Then I guess the question needs to be asked, like, well, Malcolm Simmons, like, was there a path for them to use Malcolm in that role last year? And is the response just, oh, well, he was a freshman and they had Jarquez Hunter? I mean, both of those are decent reasons, I guess, but like, does Malcolm get touches too if, an elite back doesn't emerge? I don't know. I mean, it is nice that you have options. If somebody doesn't become that dude in the running back room, I think there are options for you to be creative as far as, one extra touch a game to Singleton, one extra touch a game to Malcolm Simmons. Like, that's not going to hurt my feelings.
The Malcolm Simmons transformation is an interesting one because you're dead. Early in the year, they did do some of that, and I can remember being in the press box and watching him make the wrong read. We'd be screaming, cut up, and he'd try to bounce it outside, and he'd get a 2-yard gain.
Well, yeah,
Later in the year,
yeah,
he learned and he read his blocks, and he started cutting it up inside, and he got a lot more yardage. So it was just an evolution of him learning where the reads were and where to find the open running lanes.
Yeah. 4 carries for Simmons last year for 13 yards. One of those was for 15. So a few of those were negative to what you were saying. Like,
now,
take the positive
the
yards.
Keep in mind the toss is a reception when they toss it like that. So and he ran a lot of those where he just
I'm talking specifically running game as far as running the running backs and such. But You're concerned, well, quickly, like you're concerned with another position group on
tight ends, because other than Brandon Frazier, who has caught a pass in an Auburn uniform as a tight end? And I get the whole thing about it. Maybe it's not as important this year as it would be other years when you have this receiving room. But doesn't Hugh Freeze have has history of utilizing the tight end and it being such a big part of his offense? So with not anybody that other than Brandon Frazier having any kind of experience catching passes in an Auburn uniform, that's my biggest concern.
Yeah, I mean, it did seem like when Auburn's offense was clicking last year, and if I'm out of line, tell me, but when they were clicking last year, you did see less Rivaldo than I would have expected. I mean, I'm pro, involve the tight end. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but right. I do think from a personnel standpoint, you can scheme yourself away from needing as many tight ends as you have since he's been here, and I guess his first 2 seasons, which you hinted at. So I don't think they're as experienced. I agree 100%, but I don't think it's a huge deal unless one of these 2 guys, one of the top 2 got him, or like Preston Howard, one of those guys goes down.
There's only one aspect of that, though, that I touched on. There's also the run blocking scheme from a tight end. I don't know. I have no idea what the other guys can do when we get inside the 5 and have to have your tight end really drive somebody off the line of scrimmage. Is that person on the roster right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think they want it to be Tate Johnson, right? That just true blocking tight end. You need to go heavy. You do that with Brandon Frazier and then see who else steps up. Is it Preston Howard in that role? Is it a Ryan G in that role? That's kind of where I'm thinking maybe your third blocking tight end is Ryan G, the true freshman. But I don't know. I think that's there. I think you can scheme out of all of that with the personnel that you have. But you ask a great counterpoint there. In the red zone, when it's body on body and there's just a lot of mass going against each other, does Auburn have those guys? We'll see. We'll see. There are questions on the defensive front 7. We discuss in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Darrell, today's show brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. You remember the old days where you used to have a budgeting app and then you'd have like an investment app and then, you'd have to like screenshot it and like take pictures and talk about it with, whoever you're like building wealth with? Not anymore. It's all in one place, Darrell. And it's not just a budgeting app. It's a financial command center.
Personal assistant, isn't it? Kind of like a financial personal assistant.
I think so.
Tracking, budgetary, all kind of things. It's a tool. It's definitely a tool that you can utilize all aspects of your finances.
Yep. Nope. No question about it. They offer surprising insights with all the data and the spending that you've got, all in one convenience. You don't need multiple apps. It's all in one, which I think is great. And then, whoever your partner or your teammate is in building wealth, easy collaboration, which I think is really, really cool. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's at monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Darrell, I'll let you lead this one. There are questions when you talk about the front seven on the defensive side of the football.
Interior specifically, interior defensive linemen. I think that Auburn has, in Travis and Malik Blockton. I like where they have the transfer from Western Kentucky. I'm just concerned about depth. So it's not that I'm so concerned about who they're going to run out there from a depth chart standpoint that are starters. It's after that. If there's an injury, when it's 110 degrees on August 29th in Waco, even at night, and you're having to shuttle bodies in and out, is there enough depth there along the defensive line interior wise?
Yeah, you're going to have to call on these true freshmen. You're going to have to, whether it's Malik Autry, whether it's Jordan Crawford, whether it's Antonio Coleman, Darian Smith. It doesn't matter who it is. One of those guys is going to play. My guess is it's Autry and Crawford over the other two right now. And also, I'm curious to see, you can combat that with scooting guys in, whether it's Amaris, whether it's Keldrick. You've got edge guys that you like that I think they're going to feel comfortable playing with, obviously, Kieron Crawford, Chris Murray. We'll see what happens with Jamonta Waller. Jared Smith sounds like he had an incredible spring. He's playing at a level, even though he's a true freshman, I think they see him playing this year. And so how do you combat having all of these edge guys? Well, maybe you scoot some of these strong side ends like Keldrick and Amaris inside in certain situations.
I will say this too. This is the year more than any other. We keep hearing the name, thinking he's going to transfer out. He comes back. I give him credit for sticking with it. But Zacchaeus Walker is going to have to step up and give Auburn significant snaps. He's a senior. The time is now. He's shown flashes. But Zach, even if it's just to eat up snaps,
sure,
even if it's just to give guys a blow, don't have to go in and do anything spectacular. Hold your ground, do something positive, and just eat up snaps. I think he's way overdue to make an impact on this football team.
Maybe so. I don't fully know what he is. He's been listed as an edge for so long. And
that's just, I don't understand.
It's not the size of an edge.
No.
It's not the size of an edge. So, I think that's it's like a middle reliever, right? It's like your starter maybe didn't last an inning or two as long as you thought he would. And so, hey, we need 3 innings from you before we can go to our reliever. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens with Zeke for sure. I've got questions about linebacker. Once again, I like the idea of Auburn's linebacker room. I like the idea of Robert Woodyard getting his turn. I like the idea of DeMarcus Riddick and DJ Barber, second year in this system. The upside that Xavier Atkins, the transfer from LSU, and his athleticism, what that represents. Then I like the true freshman. It sounds like Elijah Melendez is going to play this year. I like all of that. But I still do have questions because we're putting a lot on DeMarcus Riddick. And I think he's worthy of it. Don't get me wrong. But when we talk about him turning it on down the stretch, he only played 99 snaps as a linebacker in the box. A lot of his snaps were on the line of scrimmage. He played over 100 snaps, 123 snaps as being charted as a defensive lineman according to PFF. And then he did a lot of stuff on special teams. So we believe in him, but he hasn't done what we're all thinking, oh, well, he turned it on at the end of last year, but his role will be different.
That's why I am very, very glad and feel a lot more comfortable that Auburn went out and got him a wingman in Caleb Wheatland. And that's somebody you didn't mention in that core.
Yeah, right.
That is the guy that I think Riddick is going to lean on. He's smart. He's experienced. He's a veteran. I think he's a plug-and-play guy. I think he goes right into the middle linebacker starting role. Well, I can see him as somebody that will be calling out signals, and I think he is going to be a tremendous mentor and guide for Riddick alongside him. Like I said, he is Iceman to Riddick's Maverick. You know exactly what I mean by that with the little Top Gun analogy. He's his wingman, man. And I think that's another reason why Auburn was so excited to get him. It's not only the physical traits he brings to that linebacking core. He's going to help. He's going to help settle everyone else in around him, in my opinion.
No, great point. Great point. Once again, like he hasn't done it at Auburn, right? And so
True.
Similar to your question about the tight ends a few moments ago. It's like, okay, like you've had guys kind of do it other places, but only Frazier's done it at Auburn as far as the tight end point of view. Like, well, I mean, there's not really anybody in the linebacker room who's done the job that they're going to have this year in an Auburn jersey. Like Woodyard's been here a while, but he's not going to be in this role. Like he hasn't been like the guy in a linebacker room yet. So
but I'm glad though. In the past, Zach, we've looked at guys like that with edge and linebacker that played in the group of 5 level.
True.
At least he played in the Big Ten against big boy.
Yeah. Wheatland. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Yep. So I think that makes me feel a little bit better. We'll see.
How many snaps did Woodyard play last year? He played 85 snaps as a linebacker in the box last year. I thought it was more than that. I'm not going to lie to you.
And didn't Wheatland play like 300 when he like committed to Auburn and you guys did a show? I mean, I think he played a significant amount of snaps in the box. It may even
he's played a good bit. Let's see. Caleb Wheatland last year at Maryland played 387 in the box, 62 on the defensive line, and then 17, outside of the box, kind of in that slot corner role. So, and then a lot of special teams.
So they walked him up some, huh? They walked him up some to the defensive line. That's interesting.
They did.
That's a nugget that I didn't realize at all until you just said it. I wonder if Durkin does that this year, if they walk him up.
I think they will.
Yeah.
I think that'll happen.
Especially as a run stuffer. That would be a great scenario.
Yeah, sure.
Now you're getting me excited about Caleb Wheatland again. You're getting me
we haven't talked about him in a minute. And that's a good offseason on socials yesterday. I put out a question. I think it was yesterday. Like, who was the most underrated addition this offseason?
That's mine.
A lot of people said Horatio Fields, which I don't think is a wrong answer. Hudson Cox, the punter. A lot of people said him, which I think both of those are good answers. Caleb Wheatland. I think there's a solid case there too.
I think because he's going to be somebody that has a potential and should start. How more underrated can you get under the radar? And then if he comes in as a plug and play guy and starts, then wow, you talk about investment, return on investment.
Did you do you think anybody's commented about how we're matching today yet?
It's the second time that's happened too, by the way.
Not on purpose.
And never on purpose.
In fact, when I put this shirt on earlier today, I'm like, I hesitated and I'm like, there's no way we match wearing the shirt again. I almost thought to reach out to you. But
well, it's this new Nike stuff that people will see coming soon to a sideline and a souvenir stand near you. So I was like, it's a little hot out today. It's dry fit, nice and cool.
Oh, with this weather, it's the great shirt.
Yeah,
it's a great shirt for sure. For sure. Did Bruce Pearl tell us something earlier in the week? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. For your second listen, go check out Brian Smith's show, The Portal. That is Locked On's recruiting NIL transfer portal show. He does an outstanding job. So earlier in the week, I'm going to let you lead on this one. But Bruce Pearl spoke to media, and he kind of he gassed up his son, Stephen Pearl, and kind of made the claim like he's ready for this. What is he actually saying?
Well, I first read the report from Justin Hokanson, who put it out there. And this is a common theme the last 2 years. There is no subtlety at all in anything Bruce Pearl says, tweets, whatever. And he feels really, really confident and really comfortable and keeps lobbying for the fact that Stephen Pearl is ready to take this program over. Now, the concern I have is twofold. Number one, when you start openly talking about that and start laying that seed, does that mean the end is nearer than we thought for Bruce Pearl? Because why else are you talking about your successor unless it's right around the corner? That's the first thing. The second thing is I'm a lot more for it than I was a year ago, because knowing some of the inner workings of the Auburn basketball coaching staff and what they do, I've gotten really good information that Stephen Pearl is not only a terrific recruiter, but he was responsible for a lot of the game planning last year. I think Bruce Pearl gave him more responsibility last year for that same reason. Like, see, he's ready. Look what he's done. And he's done some terrific game planning. So I'm more in tune with that than I was a year ago. In the best case scenario, though, Zach, I would still love to see – would I like to see Stephen Pearl down the road be Auburn's coach? Yes, I'm not against that. I would love to see him leave, go to a mid-major for a couple years, earn your bones a little bit, get that school into the NCAA tournament, then come back to Auburn, because being a head coach is still a different animal. And so if you run your own program for a couple years, I think, and then come back, so that may never happen. Bruce Pearl may have earned the right to pick his successor, and it may be that he says, I'll stay around the program.
That's the camp I'm in. Darrell, I think you have to give Stephen a shot. I 100% get the argument of, okay, is Auburn basketball a top 15 basketball program right now? Yes. And if you want to argue and say top 20, whatever. But it's an attractive job for an up-and-coming coach or an established coach that maybe wants to get into the SEC. 100% agree. But with what Bruce Pearl has done, taking this program, winning multiple conference championships, going to now multiple Final Fours, which is fun to say. At some point, it's like I think we owe the guy. And look, clearly Stephen's been a part of this. Was he more a part of the Final Four, this Final Four, than the first one? Probably. From a responsibility standpoint, it certainly seems like it. I don't think what Bruce Pearl is asking or insinuating is too much at all.
Understand what you are giving up, though, with that train of thought. And I feel comfortable saying that Auburn is definitely a top 15, perhaps top 10 job in the country. The support that the fans give at Neville Arena, coaches die for.
Sure.
Auburn could attract not only a coach that would be the hot name with a mid-major, you know how they always come around every year?
Yeah.
Auburn could attract a coach from a Power 4 school that in the ACC or the Big Ten that wants to step it up a little bit too and go to the SEC.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have to hire an assistant.
Agree.
They wouldn't have to wait for like the hot assistant name. For instance, Will Wade was a mid-major guy after going to LSU, and then North Carolina State snaps him up. I mean, Auburn's job is more desirable than an NC State, more attractive than an NC State. So that's what you're giving up by saying, okay, Stephen, take over the program. You're giving up what would be elite coaches in mid-majors and very good coaches in other conferences across the country.
I think, it's very clear that Bruce Pearl wants his son to be named coach in waiting whenever this happens. I just wonder how intense those conversations are when no one else is in the room. Is Bruce Pearl saying, like, name him coach in waiting, you get me for a few more years? Or if you're not going to do this, like, I'm done in 2 years. What is that?
It's a good point.
And if you're Bruce Pearl, and it's like, oh, you've gone to your second Final Four in just a few seasons. I can't imagine a spot where he's going to have more leverage than he does right now. And then you hear those report, On3 wrote about him, considering and being a potential possibility for, political office in the near future. Is that a rumor that he's okay being out there because he wants more leverage? Like, possibly. It would make sense.
Well, I think until Golden won the national title last year, everybody assumed that Todd Golden would be the next coach at Auburn with his Auburn ties. And I think that he's got what he wants at Florida. And he's built that into. Why would you? Yeah, Florida is as good a job, or even maybe better, only because of winning 3 national titles.
It's a big deal.
Not him, but they've won 3 overall. And that the O'Connell Center jumps too. Those fans are rabid.
Sure.
So, where do you go from an established coach and an elite program or established program? Maybe I think you may have cracked the code that maybe Bruce Pearl says, "Hey, look, if you can promise me that Steven will be my successor, I'll give you 3 more years." And then that's the scenario where Auburn, it's win-win. But you would love to see Auburn say, absolutely, but hey, coach, could he go take the job in the Sun Belt that just opened up at Arkansas State and win there? And then let's bring him back in 2 years and go back underneath you again or whatever. And I mean,
I get that from Auburn's point of view, but if you're Steven,
you want to stay at Auburn.
So why would you take that risk if you feel like you're in position to get the Auburn job eventually?
Because if you stink it up in a mid-major, you are not coming back to Auburn.
Yeah, what if he's there for 2 seasons or whatever, and then Bruce hangs it up and then he hasn't taken them to an NCAA tournament? Then what do? Then we certainly can't hire him, right?
No.
So
that's a gamble. You're right.
I get it. I get why he wouldn't want to leave.
All right, prediction time. I'm going to ask you, Zac Blackerby, in the year of our Lord 2027, is Bruce Pearl the head coach of Auburn basketball?
Yes.
I agree, but if you ask me that question about 2028, I would say no.
I'm saying yes, but I'm not confident in it.
That would give him 2 more years. That would be year 3. 25, 26, 26, 27, 27, 28 would be year 3. So I believe 3 more years is the ceiling, but I also believe it wouldn't surprise me if he was here 2 more years.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll see. Enjoy it. It's what a ride it's been so far. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, Dap6410, Instagram, Darrell Dap, Wednesdays and Fridays, right here on Locked on Auburn.
Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.